Hey, everybody, this is Tim Davis, and I am the host of Think Global, where the world is our home, where strangers become friends and friends become family. It's good to be back with you guys again here in the month of October, and I am joined with my amazing co-host, John. John, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's always fun to be back.
It is fun to be back. It's hard to believe, man. We are doing another podcast for the month of October.
I love it. This is the highlight of my month every month. And so I really enjoy doing this with you, Tim. I appreciate you having me back.
All right, man. Well, actually, I don't have you back. You and I just belong together.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
All right, so here we are. We're back together again. And today's going to be a special day. I'm excited about what we've got in store for all of our listeners. Help me. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say, if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to podcasts, I think you should pause it right now and go find the YouTube version because you want to watch this month's podcast.
That's right.
Now, if you can't do it because you listen while you're jogging or whatever, okay, whatever. But we have some fun guests in the studio today joining us virtually from the other side of the country.
Right.
And you want to watch today's podcast if you can.
That's right. You actually do need to do that. I'll take that seriously because actually we are watching it all live right now.
Yeah.
And they're behind us on our screen. And so I think it's going to be a good time. So yes, check it out on YouTube. It's the way to watch this podcast. All right, John, tell us what's happening today, man.
Okay, so we're going to talk to a few, three guests today. They are international students here in the U.S. studying at a university. And this podcast is all of our episodes so far have been about the world and how we experience the world and how the world becomes our home and how those strangers from the other side of the world become friends and how those friends become family. But we want to bring it back to I guess you could say the U.S. soil and what it's like in their experience being international students in the U.S. and what their experience is like here, and hopefully an encouragement for those who are in the U.S., maybe living in a college town or around international students of how they can be a host right here in their own backyard.
Right. And there's a statistic, John, back probably 4 or 5 years ago that was done with international students who they were willing to say, and this is the vast majority of the people that were interviewed, that after 4 years in a college setting in our country, never once were they invited into the home of an American who lives here.
80%.
80%.
Never visited an American home.
Yeah.
I read that same stat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was going to pull that out of my back pocket and you just stole it from me.
All right, man.
I'm so excited that you knew that.
All right. Yes, but that's tragic.
It is.
So here it is. People who we need to be hospitable. We need to be people of hospitality and how to entertain strangers. And so the strangers become our friends and those friends become our family. So I'm excited about this because what we're doing is a little bit of a reversal. Instead of us going there, it's them here. And so we're connected. We're connected in the human family. And so we're excited about that. So let's meet our guests. All right, John, you want to take over for me?
Yes,
all right,
I do. All right, you guys, I want you guys to introduce yourselves. We'll start with the gentleman on our left, my left. I don't know how it's going to land, but the gentleman, go ahead. Introduce yourself and where you're from.
And where you live most of your life, in case you traveled around.
Sure. So I'm Solon. I'm a dual citizen of Japan and America. And I spent my life growing up in Korea, Turkey, and China.
Wow.
So yeah, all over the place.
Yeah, you're like multinational, Solon.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
And you have 2 passports, U.S. and Japanese.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, I'm kind of jealous, right? Because you got a lot going. And I would love to have multiple passports for different countries. Anyway, Solon, thank you. All right, next, in the middle.
Hello, I'm Gabby. I've spent most of my life in the Dominican Republic, but I'm also a dual citizen of the U.S. and the DR.
All right. And Solon, how long have you been in college here?
I've been in college for a year. So this is my sophomore year.
Okay. Gabby?
This is also my sophomore year.
All right. Next person.
Hi, I'm Vicky. I'm from Kenya, and I'm a second-year student as well at university.
All right. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
All right. Really what began this? All right. So we're just going to go ahead and tell you what happened here. I was visiting in another part of our country, and had a lunch with these individuals, and a question was asked, and it was very revealing, and thus we're now sitting here because I think there's a lot to talk about here, and just an awareness that we need. And so, let's begin with that question that I asked, and Vicky, you answered it, but there came a time when you landed at an airport in this country. And your experience, I think, it spoke to me. It was like, wow, shame on us. We should be doing better than this. And so tell us about landing here, what it felt like, and what difference, how would it have been different if we would have landed in, let's say, Kenya, where you are from?
Well, I just come off a very long flight. And when I was in the airport, I was a bit lost. I didn't know where I necessarily needed to go next, and the types of documents that I would be needing to get just through and around. But I was clearly lost, and I had no help when I was in the airport. And I felt like if I was back at home, arriving there, somebody would have come by and stopped and asked if everything was okay.
Yeah. And I think so. One of the comments you made was that there's such a difference. So maybe we can hunker down on this little subject here. There's a difference. The difference that we chatted about that day at lunch was that there's a sense of community that you have in Kenya, that you're responsible for each other, you care for each other, and it's very different here. And would you agree with that? And maybe all of you can. Let's just chat about that for a moment. That culturally around the world, there's so much community, and we have lost that here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a moment. Community, the absence of it. I mean, have you guys sensed that loss of community that was once a part of your life? I mean, Solon, go for it. What do you think?
Yeah, growing up predominantly in Asia, where things are very community oriented. Even though I have an American passport, I've just grown up with the Asian culture of you do things to help your community. And so when there's a mindset of you need to do everything for yourself or it's not going to happen, that was definitely something that was shocking to me because I was used to helping people and having that same help reciprocated. That's been something that I continue to struggle with.
Wow.
Living here.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
That's good to hear. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's sad to hear that's a reality here.
Yeah.
But Gabby, what about you? Have you experienced that dynamic or?
Definitely. Back in the Dominican Republic, I guess the norm was for everyone to be almost extroverted, for lack of a better word. Everyone was just friendly and welcoming. And I found that here in the US, people are more reserved and to themselves. And that was a little bit of a shock getting used to the extremes.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm not familiar. I've never been to Kenya and I've never been to the DR, but I've been, Solon, I've been to all of those places. But, I'm just curious around the idea of hospitality and what would be a show of hospitality? What's an example of hospitality from those cultures? Like you take food to somebody or you welcome them at the airport, in your case, Vicky, what are some examples of that show of hospitality that maybe you miss or maybe we could learn from?
Well, I would say that hospitality is something that's very dominant in the mindset and worldview of the cultures that I was a part of. Nothing particular, but people are always looking to see how they can help other people and to better the community as a whole.
That's good.
Others there?
Well, at least in the DR, hospitality is very food-based. So every meal you cook for the double amount of the size of your family, just in case someone happens to come over so that you have enough to feed them.
Yeah.
And when someone walks into your house, the first thing you offer them is coffee.
Wow.
I love that. That's cool. I would never think to, my wife and I cooking dinner at night, let's say tonight after work, I'm thinking, hey, honey, I think we should make twice as much in case the neighbor comes over. Like that would never cross my mind. But Vicky, what about you? You kind of laugh when she said food. Is it similar in Kenya, or what do you think?
It is a bit similar. I think whenever you visit someone's house, you just have to bring a gift, whether it's, I don't know, certain groceries or fruits or tea, something of the sort. Just to say, thank you for welcoming me here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when I'm hearing all this, like preparing food, the community, offering coffee, that mindset. Like we actually live in a culture where we get up and we go about the business of our morning at home. Then we open up the garage doors. We drive out, shut the garage doors.
Yeah.
Then we go to work. And after work, we open up the garage doors, go in. It's sort of like living in a fortress. And we, by virtue of either our fence or our garage doors, we tend to isolate ourselves, and we live with that fortress mentality of, instead of community, it's my little empire, my little castle that I'm living in, and I'm trying to protect, and I'm too tired to even extend a gracious hand to a neighbor or something like that. So I think this is good. I mean, we need to be more sensitized to the reality of people and relationships and what community is all about. And by the way, would you agree with me? I think if we set the example for that, I think our neighbors would be refreshed by that, not irritated, but rather refreshed by the fact that we cared about them, right?
Right. Yeah. And those are refreshing moments when we do spend time, at least I'm speaking for myself, like when I actually do take something over to my neighbor's house, or they invite us over, not scheduled like, hey, let's schedule something next month and come over and have dinner. But I get home from work and I see my neighbor outside and he says, hey, why don't you come over later and let's hang out and sit on the patio and eat something together. That's really refreshing.
Right.
But what is a little sad, I think, is that kind of stuff happens in these other cultures, like where our friends are from, every single day.
Right.
And for me, it's like this big special moment when it happens once in a blue moon.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hey, and I know there's a lot of positives, like, right, you chose to come here. You made the choice to like travel to this country, go to college in this country, and all of us, again, like in our neighborhoods in this city, and we live in a college town right here where there's a lot of international students here, and so we know there are positives to it. But I do want to focus on the realities of it, and one of the, like, can I ask you guys a question? Like, what's been the hardest part of being here? Like, just honestly, like, it's hard. I know it's hard to be here in many different ways. Like, what's hard about being here? Because what we want to do is people who are listening to say, you know what? I should be aware of that. I should be sensitive to the person I just passed on the street, or they're sitting in the restaurant next to me or near me. What is it? Like, what's hard about living here? Vicky, can we start with you?
Oh, yes, of course. I think sometimes just the assumptions that people make about my experience, or just where I'm from, or just other, in general, just different assumptions, it can come across in a negative way, just because I did not have the opportunity to share what they thought. So.
Now, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like assumptions without even given the opportunity to like explain or to share or to say, this is who I really am.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there a example, like a brief example you could share?
Well, for example, I was just asked recently about like, oh, how would your parents like think of snow, as though they haven't been like aware of it. But it's like I would have personally like answered, oh, how is the weather like in Kenya? And I could have expanded on that and how we don't have seasonal change.
Yeah. Something as simple as that.
So assumed that like your parents would be like shocked by snow. Is that what you're saying? Because gotcha. Instead of just asking, hey, what's the weather? They just assume you guys have no clue what snow is.
Right. Which is simple, but it's profound.
It's interesting.
Yeah. How about you, Gabby? Like, what's been hard about living here?
Well, Well, the culture isn't entirely new to me because I lived here for the first 8 years of my life.
Uh-huh.
But I became very accustomed just to the warmth of the DR, like climately, but also within the people. And I just feel like there's a lack of warmth here, and getting used to that has been a little interesting.
Yeah. So it's relationship.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's back to community, relational. Yeah. So just a lack of that general warmth of people. And okay.
Yeah. Solon?
Yeah.
I would say just the celebration of culture. I know that there's been lots of holidays and things that I celebrated living in Asia, and I appreciated it a lot. Actually, recently was Mid-Autumn Festival in China.
Right.
That's right.
So it's sad to reflect that it's not really a thing here. Like the culture isn't celebrated, and the holidays that are celebrated are very commercialized.
Right.
And so it doesn't always go back to like the family roots or appreciating history. So it's been difficult for me to settle for something that is so like deep rooted in me and my culture.
Yeah. Hey, that's pretty profound. Like, actually, I mean, the sensitivity of understanding friends, knowing what they celebrate, and celebrating it with them. I mean, actually, we experience that globally when it comes to those things that we hold dear, and it's ingrained in our very culture, our DNA. And when we're in another country and they recognize that and they want to celebrate it with us, right? You've been there.
Yes, it's a big deal. And I mean, even I think I shared this on another podcast, but I have a friend in another country that he texts me, I think he texts you too, on every holiday, like not even like the international recognized holidays, but like 4th of July. That's a very American holiday, right?
Right.
He texts me on that holiday to say happy 4th of July. And just for him to recognize that maybe I'm celebrating something on this day that's unique or special to me, he's willing to celebrate that with me. And maybe that's where that's a lesson that if we do get a chance to interact with people visiting our country, whether it be for school or for work or for whatever reason, to get into their world and ask them, what are the things that you enjoy celebrating with your friends and family? Because I want to celebrate that with you.
Exactly right.
And figuring out what their holiday schedule is or calendar is, and saying, hey, you told me October 20th is such and such holiday. Like, let's celebrate. How do you celebrate that? I want to do that with you.
That's exactly
That'd be kind of cool.
And I'm gonna even piggyback on that. So we're not going to say his name, but the guy that we're talking about is a security detail fella who works for us when we go to Iraq. And his whole job is just to take care of us. We pay him for it, but he remembers us and he sends those texts and he tries to celebrate what's important to us. That's a good point.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, real quick, let me ask you guys. You got a question?
No, I wanted you.
All right, so what do you miss about home? Like, what is it you miss? Like, you go to bed at night and you put your head on the pillow and no one's talking to you and the lights are out and you think about home. Like, what do you miss?
I'm going to say one of the most obvious things. I miss food.
Yes.
And the way that I've been able to adapt with that is I actually carry around this little container of Chinese spice. So I take that to the cafeteria, sprinkle it on some bland food.
That's awesome.
And it's a hint of home. So I try to make do.
What Chinese spice is it? Can we ask?
Well, this spice is, in Chinese it's called lajiao.
Oh, I love. Oh, yes. Say no more. That's
actually, I ate in your cafeteria, so you do need some spice on that. Don't tell anybody I just said that. Anyway, but yes, good spices. Solon, thank you for that. All right, Gabby, what about you? What do you miss about home at night? Your head is on the pillow. It's dark. Nobody's messing with you.
Food is definitely a big one for me as well, but just because back home, like there wasn't much to do per se. So a lot of times if we were bored, like, hey, let's go out and grab a meal together. So it's very much of a bonding experience with other people. So I kind of miss that aspect a little bit. And I also miss, I guess Dominicans are known for being very loud and just, we love to party. So like there's noise 24/7 everywhere you go. And it's an odd thing to miss, but I do miss it. I miss the noise.
No, actually, I get that. That's a big deal. Like, right? So much of what we do is just hush hush behind our garage doors. But you're right. When we travel internationally, man, people just don't go to bed at 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
It's alive. It's vibrant. It's dynamic, and there's something to be understood about that. That's culture, and we should get it.
Yeah, well, it could be those kind of like the party vibe or of the Dominican Republic, or it can be the dancing in the squares in China, you know, where they're doing the dancing at night in the squares, like that kind of stuff. We just don't do that here, and
to our loss.
Yeah,
to our detriment.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, Vicky, what do you miss about home?
I'll definitely say food as well. I just always think about that.
Is there a specific food that comes to mind?
From Kenya, like what?
Matoke. It's like green banana and potato, like other vegetables and meat. So it's like a stew almost. But
wow,
well, that sounds good.
All right. So, John, I mean, let's begin to start wrapping this up. But like, you know what? Obviously, we don't want to be critical of any nation. We don't want to be critical of our own nation. But we've got a lot to learn. We do have a lot to learn. You know, for you guys, just speaking, you know, from your heart, like what advice would you give us on just hospitality? I mean, how can we be better at embracing international students who've come here, who've said goodbye to family, they've said goodbye to their food that they've grown used to? And by the way, that is a big deal. We may minimize that, but that is a big deal. Like when we take guests overseas, one of the things they can't wait for is a meal from home.
Yeah.
So it's real both ways.
Wait,
so
you know, I lived in China for a bit, and I went to visit a friend in Korea, and the first thing I made him do was take me to Krispy Kreme there in Seoul because I missed donuts so much. It's like I'm just to your point. Food is a big deal when you live somewhere that's not your home country.
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't have said anything about Krispy Kreme. But anyway.
You don't think so? I think they might sponsor the podcast if we say it enough times.
All right, they might do that. But anyway, so like what, in a nice way, what would you say to John and I like on hospitality as it relates to international students who've left their home, who said goodbye to a family, they no longer enjoy their food, they feel isolated, there's a loss of community. I mean, like, what would you say to us? And we really want you to be honest on that. Any one of you. Gabby, I'm going to pick on you first.
I would say just take the time to reach out to international students and make a genuine connection and just ask them how they're doing and actually mean it, you know, and take the time to know them and their culture. Even just being willing to learn, I know will be greatly appreciated. Maybe even finding a meal from back home, even if it's not completely authentic, we'll still appreciate the gesture.
Right. And I like the little caveat she threw in there, and really mean it.
Yeah.
Like it's not perfunctory.
Right.
It's not being polite. Actually taking an interest in someone else who actually is not from where we happen to be right now. So I think, Gabby, that's very good. To really mean it matters. Vicky, what about you? What advice would you give us?
Yeah, going off of that, just asking questions is a great start. And I would have liked if people just reassured me that just to give myself grace and patience with just being acquainted with everything that's new. So just like a little reminder that, you know, give yourself some time.
Right. And be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good word too, Vicky.
Yeah.
Solon?
I would say, honestly, just going to use something similar to Gabby, but like genuinely listen. Because us international students are just brimming with culture and experiences, and we would love to share it, but often we don't feel heard. And so having the opportunity to tell people about who we are and things that are important to us does mean a lot. So like having people care and listen is definitely something that I would say is very helpful.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think the message there is to show value to people,
Yeah.
no matter where they're from. And it might be a neighbor who has lived in this country all of their lives, but is showing value to them. It's basically honoring them, right? And I think that's what we're hearing from our friends today, and that is that show value to an international student who actually feels like a stranger, where things feel very strange to them, where things feel very abnormal. It's out of their comfort zone. Why not show value? Because we go back to the same thing we've talked about often. They are image bearers, and they've been created. They've been made beautifully, and we can. And by the way, it's not just us giving to them, but by reaching out to international students or others, we become the winners in that. Like we learn so much, and we learn more about the world. We stop being parochial. It's all about my little world right here, and that's all that matters. And so I think when we honor other people, value other people, we win. I mean, it blesses them, but we win because it changes us. It changes our children when they see that, and it can change our world because of doing that. So,
yeah, I love that. Can I get really practical?
I want you to.
Because, to the general person listening, they might be thinking, wow, this is so encouraging. I hope they're thinking this is so encouraging. Yeah. And I hope they're thinking, I want to get involved. I want to figure out how to get to know some international students in my community. And so just real practical, I have 2 ways, kind of general ways. Like if you live in a college town, look up your college or your university in your town. And I promise you, there's an office of like international student affairs or something of that nature, and shoot them an email or give them a call and say, hey, what are you doing? Or when is your next international student night? And because what they'll do is like these nights where they bring in all the international students, they can kind of set up booths and they can talk about their culture. They can bring in. I've been to some where they bring in their food, and I'll just walk around just to get the food. But but they'll set those up. So that's a great way to meet people. Or if you're not in a college town or you prefer this other method, number 2, I would say get in touch with your local church and say, what are you doing as a church to welcome in international students in our community and make them feel welcome in our community, because I want to get involved. I want to volunteer. I want to help.
Yeah.
And I promise you, your local church or your local university, they're looking for people like you and me. They're looking for people listening who want to get involved, volunteer their time and their effort to make people feel welcome in their community. Those are 2 really easy ways: international departments on university campuses and local churches.
Yeah. And John, I appreciate that, because actually what came to my mind when you were saying that was like, the first step in ever doing anything correct or right or helpful or honorable in this way is simply opening up our eyes and being intentional about it.
Yeah.
Like we can put our head in the sand and go on with life, and we miss the greatest blessings in life by not engaging with people from other cultures. And that's a dangerous thing. And we live very insular, isolated lives that really doesn't really accomplish much except for ourselves. So I think it's good.
And it's scary in a sense. Like, you're going to think, oh, I'm going to say the wrong thing and I'm going to offend somebody, or I'm going to ask a stupid question, or it's okay. That's better than doing nothing, right? And so put yourself out there, get to know people, just like Solon said, like genuinely listen, get into their world, and because they have a wealth of experiences to share. And so anyway, that's my very practical advice.
All right. So we're going to end up with this real quick. We're going to go through, starting with you, Solon. At the end of the day, you're going to walk away from an experience in this country, and you're going to go home, wherever that is, Japan or back to China, Turkey. What do you hope to take away from this experience? Like, what's your dream? Like, what do you dream this experience, going to college in the U.S., will accomplish in your life?
I'm in college to pursue a higher education, and America provides that education in a very adequate way. So as I leave college, one networking is very important, having relationships with people. But ultimately, I want to walk away with a professional attitude to whatever career I choose to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. That's good.
It's a great answer.
Yeah, that's actually when you speak of networking and all of that, those connections, like that can be helped by people who show hospitality.
Yeah.
It's amazing who you will be able to meet over these 4 years as you interact with others, and that can take us a long way in life. And let's just think, like if I'm Solon's friend 10 years from now, who knows what kind of impact he will have on the world.
Yeah.
And I'll be thrilled that I got to know him.
Right. Well, he met you, and now he's met me, and he's met Anna. Like the networking has just already happened.
That's
so
right.
If you ever need anything, just call Tim.
Yes, Solon. I'm here for you, man. All right. So, Gabby, what about you? What do you want to take away from all of this experience?
I just hope to grow and mature and improve in every aspect of my life and who I am as a person. Whether that's my career, my relations with other people, my relationship with the Lord, and many other things like that. I just want to make sure I'm always improving and
That's good. That's also the same, again, that's a part of that relationship thing and all that helps, us grow.
I love this group. All right,
Yes.
Vicky.
I would say just to make the most of opportunities handed to me and offered, and to take the skills that I've acquired here and go back and use them at home.
Yeah, awesome. So whatever happens here blesses your home and your community there. So again, that's that impact of having an international student here in our country and in our homes. So, all right, John.
Yep.
We're ready to wrap this up.
Go for it.
All right. Hey, listen, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again to this podcast of Think Global. We're glad you've chosen to be a part of this. Thank you for listening in. Be intentional about reaching out to internationals. They have so much to offer us, and it will actually revolutionize our lives. So again, this is Think Global, where the world is our home, where strangers become friends and friends become family. We will be chatting with you again 1 month from now in the month of November. All the best to all of you. We'll see you next time.